Megatsunamis are perhaps one of the most terrifying and awe-inspiring natural disasters that can occur on our planet. The conditions required to form them are quite specific. Meteorite impacts produce the most tremendous waves when they land in the open ocean, but landslides can also produce them. And this is exactly what occurred in a region of Alaska known as Lituya Bay. Lituya Bay is located in a geologically active region where a major fault line known as the Fairweather Fault exists approximately 13 miles or 21 kilometers southeast of Lituya Bay in Alaska. In 1958, a strike-slip earthquake occurred, producing an earthquake at a scale between 7.8 to 8.3 on the Richter scale. The earthquake involved significant horizontal movement along the fault line, with the Pacific Plate moving laterally past the North American Plate. The sudden release of accumulated stress along the fault caused intense ground shaking and displacement. The intense shaking from the earthquake destabilized the slopes around Lituya Bay, particularly in the Gilbert Inlet area. This led to a massive landslide where approximately 40 million cubic yards of rock and ice fell into the bay. The enormous volume of material displaced a huge amount of water, generating a megatsunami. The wave reached an unprecedented height of 1,720 feet or 524 meters as it surged up the slopes on the opposite side of the bay. The wave was comparable in height to a 172-story building. Unfortunately, several people were on the bay when this earthquake and subsequent megatsunami occurred. Amazingly, there were survivors who saw a towering wave that was so high it's amazing that anyone survived it. But there were 3 fatalities among the small amount of people present in the bay at the time. People who were within and around Lituya Bay at the time of the landslide reported hearing a loud roar as a mass of rock and ice collapsed into the bay. The sound was described as a combination of thunder, an explosion, and a continuous rumble. The sound of the landslide and the subsequent impact was heard by individuals located up to 80 kilometers away from Lituya Bay. This indicates the tremendous energy released during the landslide and the efficiency with which sound waves can travel through the mountainous and fjord-like terrain of the area. The initial noise would have come from the rocks and ice breaking free and tumbling down the slope into the bay. The entry of the massive landslide into the water would have generated a secondary explosive sound as the water was violently displaced, creating the megatsunami. As the megatsunami surged through Lituya Bay, additional sounds from the water impacting the shore and crashing into obstacles would have been heard. The mountainous terrain and the fjord-like structure of Lituya Bay would have influenced how sound travelled. Sound can reflect and reverberate off the steep walls of the bay, potentially amplifying and carrying the noise further. As a side note, if you enjoy this video, consider liking it to help YouTube promote it to other viewers. If you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell icon to be notified of every time we upload. We also have a Patreon for anyone who has the means to support the channel. The link to this will be in the description and in the pinned comment down below. The megatsunami absolutely decimated and stripped vegetation and soil from areas up to 1,720 feet above sea level, leaving a visible trim line. This trim line actually existed prior to the 1958 event, meaning this scale of megatsunami has been produced multiple times in the history of Lituya Bay. Based on geological studies, the first recorded megatsunami in Lituya Bay occurred in 1853. While specific details about the magnitude and impact are scarce, it is known that a large wave was generated due to a significant landslide. Another significant megatsunami hit Lituya Bay in 1874. Similar to the 1853 event, this megatsunami was triggered by a massive landslide that fell into the bay, causing a substantial wave. The 1899 megatsunami is more well documented. This event was associated with the Yakutat Bay earthquake, which had a magnitude of 8. The shaking caused a large landslide in Lituya Bay, generating a powerful wave that inundated the shoreline. The 1899 earthquake itself caused significant regional geological changes, including subsidence and uplift along the Alaskan coast. Evidence of these historical megatsunamis includes high trim lines and debris deposits found above the normal high tide line. These physical markers indicates the heights reached by the waves and the extent of the destruction. Studies of tree rings in the area have shown abrupt growth changes consistent with massive wave impacts, supporting the historical accounts of megatsunamis. The 1958 Lituya Bay megatsunami was extraordinarily powerful, but it was a localized event and did not reach other distant locations. The wave primarily affected the immediate vicinity of Lituya Bay, scouring the shorelines and reaching heights above the bay's steep walls. The bay's narrow and enclosed geography confined the impact to this local area. So this is the story of the terrifying 1958 mega tsunami in Lituya Bay. It's likely that a repeat of this event will happen in the near future. Extreme caution should be exercised if travelling to this area, as when the next earthquake will happen is anyone's guess. Thanks for watching.